Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi ho everybody and welcome back to D Plus Us Weekly, the show where we talk about Disney Plus exclusive shows, episode by episode, week by week. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin Tennell, Griffy D-Pad, and with me as always is the wonderful, the amazing, the marvelous Mr. Mitch George. How you doing tonight?
I watched this episode on the subway on my phone, so this is going to go really well or really poorly.
A very, very strange way to watch what might be the best episode of the show.
Best episode so far.
Definitely one of the best action sequences, but we will get to all of that, folks. Of course, we are talking about Secret Invasion, Episode 5, Harvest. Little rigmarole before we start the show. First off, this is a full spoiler show. If you have not watched the episode, go watch the episode, come right on back. This is full spoilers for all of the MCU, past, present, future, which is a thing I have to say now because time travel and multiple dimensions are involved, and it doesn't ever stop annoying me. And that's coming from a comics nerd. Aside from that, folks, you can check out our normal show, D Plus Us, on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@D+Us. Check out all of our stuff there. Check us out on TikTok, Twitter, Threads, all the places.
Do we have a Threads account yet?
I mean, you have the Instagram.
I should probably get on top of that.
You can make it in an instant.
I could if I had the wherewithal to open the accounts or the podcast Instagram account ever to update it or add content to it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. A note from us, folks. We are certainly in an interesting place at the moment in the entertainment industry with the SAG-AFTRA joining the WGA strike. We are going to be adjusting our content so that we are not promoting anything coming out soon, which is a little weird to be saying on like our weekly, hey, this episode came out this week show. We're kind of trying to figure it out case by case for us because we fall under the we kind of fall under review more than we fall under influencer.
We fall into the bubble of the few of you who are here listening to this and watching this. We appreciate you, but it is a few. So I'm less concerned that, we're promoting things in ways that we should not be, because that isn't definitely not the intent of the show. The intent is just to get together, chat about cool things when they happen. But we will, to Griffin's point, adjust things as things continue to evolve with the ongoing labor action for both of those unions. Expect episodes maybe on some Vault content on that their Disney Plus streaming service that
absolutely
relates to the thing that we're watching. Are we going to do a Rebels episode in place of Ahsoka, and we just do an episode each week on a season of Rebels?
Will
That's
we finally
not a bad
put
idea.
out
I just came up with it off the top of my head.
That's a really good one. But will we finally put out the backlog of episodes we've talked about recording?
Will we record the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion episode before the Owen Wilson one?
To be determined.
Yes, probably.
But yeah, I think the important thing to mention, though, about all of this, folks, is that this strike is not about us. We are minuscule. We are not important. What is important here are the writers and the actors that are affected by these rules, so go and support them however you can. As always, when it comes to strikes, check how the unions want you to support. Do not just listen to random people on the internet. Hey,
like us.
Don't listen to us. Listen to the union. Listen to what they're saying and follow their guidelines like we are going to be trying to do from here on out here. We're going to wrap up Secret Invasion. It's this week and next week. There's nothing after that Secret Invasion wise. We're not really sure about what we're doing going from there. It's going to be a case by case basis, obviously, but for the most part, it's going to be Vault content, non-movie, TV related content. Will I make Mitch read random comic books? Maybe.
Probably. Will we do an episode on theme park fireworks? Almost guaranteed with the two of us.
I was going to say, especially with you going to Disney in a little bit.
Yeah. Good thing it doesn't overlap with any weekly content that we would definitely not talk about anyway because reasons.
Yeah, weirdness.
Although it might overlap with Ahsoka, but I will figure that out in my own time for my own viewing pleasure.
Yeah. Honestly, I still want to go down to Disneyland before Rogers closes and go like watch it and then give a review. The problem is I don't think I'm going to be able to make it down there before it closes.
It's not open for very long, but we're not here to talk about Rogers the Musical playing right now at the Hyperion Theater in Disneyland's California Adventure Resort.
It starts back up next week. Because this week it's been all but shut down for Haunted Mansion.
Oh, right. I forgot they had to do
We all got shut down for the Haunted Mansion red
Premiere.
carpet BS they did. That just was an absolute
That
failure.
couldn't happen because it was the day after the SAG-AFTRA strike action began.
Dude, when I got announced, I sent you that message like, oh man, this will be awesome if it happens. Nope.
And lo and behold, the world said, nah, B, we good.
But yeah, let's talk about Secret Invasion, the reason that we're doing this episode in the first place. Episode 5, The Harvest. Probably the most interesting episode by far.
I'm disappointed that you were right.
About what? That Maria Hill's dead?
I'm still convinced that she's coming
Because I
back
think
in
she
the
might be
finale.
coming back next week.
I mean, we got a fun cameo here that most people probably had no clue what was going on.
Oh yeah, what's his name from
because
Black Widow?
Not enough people watch Black Widow, but Talos got the Darth Vader treatment. You know, funeral by funeral pyre. He's done.
What a
so,
heartbreaking scene for me.
like Emilia Clarke is so good, doing so little in this show.
I felt like that was her moment because this was
100%.
obviously there's a fantastic range of emotions in all of this. One of my favorite action sequences so far in this episode of Priscilla and Gaia just wrecking shop against the men Gravik sent to kill her, Gravik falling apart, a coup happening, him shutting it down. I feel like this was the first time we really saw the Skrulls like we see the Skrulls in the comic books. And I mean that both in terms of actions, in terms of like physically, like the Skrulls have always like looked like you would expect the Skrulls to look with the pointy ears and the weird chins and they're green. But there is a menacing vibe to whenever you see a Skrull in Marvel Comics. And I feel like this was the first time we really saw that was after Gravik kills the coup.
Well, not even that. Like Gravik's intent to expose Fury's weakness in his caring about both people and Skrulls, not wanting World War III to start and not wanting the U.S. to bomb the crap out of this Russian facility where the Skrulls have taken refuge. It just, again, it adds to, there are bad Skrulls. And this is, I wasn't sure how they would make us dislike the Skrulls after the, for me, it was a bit of an about face, or it was an unexpected development within Captain Marvel that the Skrulls weren't the bad guys. And you fully expect, just based on appearance, based on history and comic book lore, that the Skrulls are going to be the bad guys. And they weren't. So I was very concerned coming into this project of, okay, we have Skrulls, we have Skrulls that we care about. How are they going to make us not like the Skrulls we're not supposed to care about? And this episode did a really good job of convincing me that Gravik and Rava are pieces of shit and deserve to get got by Fury in this finale.
Absolutely. I think this episode, I think it did such a good job of playing on those villains and making them true villains. One of my favorite things about Gravik has how it's been an escalation and how he is slowly letting his anger take him over more and more and more as we've progressed. That first episode it wasn't a evil speech. It was bang, bang, boom, boom, just action, no words. And now it is much more words before actions in oh yeah, give me the thing I want, yada, yada, yada. I think the big twist here as well he wants the DNA of the Avengers.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason all of this is happening. It's even more personal than we already knew it was. It is personal as well, and just I wish we got more development of the backstory between Fury and Gravik, because we get some of that here of Fury sent in a crew at the end of Endgame to collect DNA samples of the Avengers that were at that battle, because most of them spilled blood in that battle, which is a valid thing for a Nick Fury type character to do, because he's also an asshole.
and this is more indication that he is that asshole. But it's like, oh yeah, Gravik was on the team recovering the samples. That's how he knows they exist. It's like, that's great. Why was Gravik so close to Fury at this point? Why was there this relationship? I wanted to understand the motivations behind this being as personal for Fury as it is before they reveal these things in the finale, which they're bound to do. It just, I would have loved more of that exposition throughout the series and not saving it for a big information dump in the finale that'll be, sandwiched into a all-out action brawl scene with Fury outsmarting Gravik, figuring out a way to abuse the powers that he has now acquired through the harvest. La-di-da, put a bow on it. The end. Fury goes to space.
Yeah, yada, yada, yada. Typical final episode for a Marvel show. I will not be surprised. Actually, I will be extremely surprised. But I feel like at this point we have said her name so many times with this damn show that we need a Carol Danvers appearance next week. Like, it's not happening. But they've said her name so many times now.
I'm still disappointed we're not getting Daisy Johnson.
As am I. But I still hold out hope for Daisy to pop up eventually.
I have been trying my best to will this into existence by starting a rewatch of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've only gotten about 6 episodes in, but I don't think it's enough.
You clearly have not tried hard enough.
Look, you and I have talked offline. The amount of work that I have had to take on over the last couple of months has been astronomical. The fact that I found time today to even watch this episode to talk about it with you tonight is a Herculean task in itself.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a very real scenario where that phone call Fury has at the very end of like, let's go, whatever, I forget exactly what he said, was to Carol. There's a very real chance of that. I think there's an even bigger chance of it being Maria Hill. I think Maria could come back.
I think it's more likely Hill than Carol Danvers at this point, because there's no evidence, and there's actually evidence to the contrary that, Cap isn't on the planet, right? Because we see, at least through the trailers, for the way that it appears that the Marvels is going to open is with Carol Danvers still tracing down free stuff.
Yeah, and more often than not, Carol is not on planet.
I also think, like, understanding as well that Fury specifically mentions we have Avenger DNA, even Carol Danvers. If she were to uncover that, any trust that was developed between Fury and Carol goes down the drain. I don't see there being a way that she finds that out, period. Because he's Nick Fury. If he doesn't want you to know something, you won't know it. So that's why I don't expect that to happen.
Except the only person who's been the exception to that rule has been Carol. She's the only person he's trusted with that shit. Well, yeah, but right. I mean...
And I think even to an extent, Sonya in this episode, when he reveals that he's married to a Skrull, right?
See, I feel like he had to reveal that to her for the sake of, like, hey, I understand what I'm doing here. Like, I don't feel like that was
it adds more weight to it being a personal battle for Fury and why he didn't call in the Avengers. Mm-hmm. And his whole speech to Sonya of, like, we can't keep depending on these heroes to save us. We have to be able to defend ourselves. I think is valid, especially in the wake of the events of something like Age of Ultron, where the heroes were the catalyst for the cataclysm in Sokovia.
Yeah, and ultimately what saved their asses was Fury.
Exactly. So I understand Fury's perspective there. It does still feel like a bit of a cop-out at times with the way he's been trying to get the troops together, but the troops have just been him and Sonya, really. Mm-hmm. So I do Sonya, though,
like, I love her in this episode, man.
I love her. I'm also dumbfounded by that character at times, especially the Rhodey thing. The Rhodey thing really, really bothers me. You have this character that seems to know everything, knows her own boss is a Skrull, takes him out of the equation, but can't piece together that Rhodey has not been acting like himself the entirety of this series. Well, yeah, that has not been Rhodey in any of these conversations. Like, it doesn't sound like the way Rhodey has sounded throughout the MCU. That has not been Rhodey.
Well, here's the thing.
It's been very obvious to the audience. I can't believe it isn't to her.
She's interacted with him once. The entire season. She's interacted with him once. And it was
Technically twice when she shared this information with him in this episode.
when did she? No, that was
Although
the
it's
only
off
time.
screen.
That was did she interact with him before? Because that's the only time I can remember, is giving them the information that they talked about off screen.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I can see it because she just has barely had any interaction with Rhodey. But everything about her in this episode was so fun to me. Like, her with the doctors and the one dude, like, that threatens to kill the other doctor. One of my favorite lines so far. It just perfect delivery, perfect action of it's like, oh, yes, it's either gaslighting or threatening to murder. And then just shoots him in the head.
Yeah, that's all phenomenal. But I
feel like Sonya is being set up to be a member of whatever Nick Fury's new S.H.I.E.L.D. will be. Like, because, don't get me, like, Sword is clearly, like, the new, quote-unquote, new S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything. Like, Sonya's going to be a part of it going forward.
I could very much see Fury not wanting to be, like, Fury passing the baton in a way to set this character, Sonya, who is an original character for this series, but we all love Sam Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson has carried the role of Nick Fury. Even before it was in film, he was the inspiration for Ultimate Nick Fury in the comics and continues to be so to this day.
Yes, but the reason he is the
Ultimate Nick Fury.
The Ultimate Nick Fury is because they were pitching him on being in the MCU.
Which is fair, but I like just...
And you know what? It's one of those things of like, it is perfect casting. I think we've had...
Very much so.
If we're being really honest with ourselves, we've had only three or four perfect castings in the MCU. And I would tell you that those are...
Two of them were in the first Iron Man film.
Yeah. It's Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, Chris Evans as Captain America, and Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel. I think every other casting has been fantastic. But I would tell you that those four stand out as perfection in the casting department. And, like, I love Haley Steinfeld as Kate. She's as close to perfect as you can get with that. There's other people that would have been fantastic in that role as well. These four roles, though, no one else can be these roles.
No.
But yeah,
back to what I was saying on Sam Jackson, like, his time in the MCU needs to come to an end soon. I hope he gets the send off that he needs between this and the Marvels, and then is able to pass the baton to the next generation of S.H.I.E.L.D., Sword, SRS agents, whatever that ends up looking like. Like, the dude's in his mid-70s. Like, he deserves the opportunity to slow down a bit.
I think we've far from seen the end of him, if I'm being honest, but because he said he wants to keep doing this for a while. Like,
I'm happy to see him keep doing it. I don't want to.
We'll see what he does.
I don't think he should be leading projects in the way that he is with this one in the future. And he hasn't to this point, so I expect that will be more of a supporting role, like we'll see in the Marvels, like we'll see in whatever comes from that. But
oh yeah, I want to go back.
He deserves a break. He's killing it.
Oh yeah, and I think he's going to just keep having fun with the role and pop up wherever he wants to pop up because he's Nick goddamn Fury. He can.
Okay, hold the phone. I did the stupid thing where I looked up his age, and then there was a link to the Garfield movie that's coming out next year.
Is he in Garfield?
Did you know that Samuel L. Jackson was going to be in the Garfield movie?
I did not. Obviously, who can say? I think that Garfield movie is going to be terrible, though. So
I do. So as we know, they have cast the actor to play Garfield that has been every role in every animated film for the last 10 years, and that's Chris Pratt. You want to take a guess at the character that Samuel L. Jackson will be playing in that film?
This point is going to be playing like normal.
No. Samuel L. Jackson is playing the character of Vic. Vic is Garfield's father.
Huh. Okay. All right, then. I really don't care about this movie, if I'm being honest. So much has come out about Garfield that I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'm good. It's just disappointing. Also, I didn't realize that Garfield's father was like an actual like Garfield character.
I didn't know that either.
Shout out, by the way, to Garfield Kart. Great video game.
It's not, though.
It's a fantastic video game.
It very much is not.
It's very good.
No. Moving on.
Okay, I want to bring us back because we talked about Gaia a little bit, but we didn't really. I want to go back to that funeral scene because that legit might have been the best scene of the show. Her being so torn up over this death of like her final words to him not being great, but there being that level of disconnect of like when she says, "I don't know the prayer." Like you can tell how much it's tearing into her. Like she misses her dad. Like she misses her link to her culture. She doesn't never really had it because of how the Skrulls are. Pretty on the nose immigration story. But it was done so well. I think they did a great job with it.
The whole conversation between Nick Fury and Gaia in the safe house where we saw the flashback earlier in the series of, getting the Skrulls to be a part of Fury's secret Skrull force thing, or whatever we're going to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Having them go back to that location, have the conversation they had, added a lot of weight to the drama that's going on between these characters and Gravik. I'm still a little, I guess disappointed is probably the right word. I'm a little disappointed in the fact that we're having this story told. I understand Nick Fury, being a black man in America, feeling empathy for, a displaced culture having to assimilate into America and hide their true selves and essentially, and they've, to the thing that I'm disappointed about, they have whitewashed every Skrull character short of Priscilla and Gravik in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And that one dude that Gaia recruits into the, into the cult.
It's that thing of like we see some diversity at Skrullos, at New Skrullos, but that's about it. There's not really a ton in the actual acting, which is so goddamn typical. Of Hollywood.
You look at something like Avatar: The Way of Water that got a lot of flack for, the presentation of the water society being closer to like Mesoamerican, Latin American culture in some respects, or Pacific Island culture, like a bit of an amalgam of the two. And most of those actors that would play those characters that are all just blue people behind makeup, they're all white.
Yeah.
Or predominantly white. They aren't all white.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I will continue to call out in projects like this, especially when immigration is core to the theming of the show. There's no reason why these characters needed to all be white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I think they've done a decent job with that with the humans of the show, which is why it feels weird that the Skrulls are less so. And I think it's...
Yeah, every conversation between Rhodey and Fury was fantastic when it came down to their discussion about,
I'm not sure
race
how much of it is, though, something new to it, so much as this is the hole they're already in. Because so much of this show, right, is building off of what was already set up. So a lot of that stuff is just grandfathered in because of past stuff. We see a lot of that with, like, some of the more anti-Semitic parts of the show, some of, like, because guess what, shape-shifting reptilian people is typically an anti-Jewish stereotype. I forget what the actual term for the
anti-Semitic.
Not that, the caricature, that's what I was thinking. An anti-Semitic caricature. Like, a lot of that stuff is grandfathered into this show, which sucks. Like, so I really do try to take it case by case.
Like, I'm very curious to see what the outcome of the leaked footage of the soldier helping Talos. Just that shot feels like it will end up being almost like his martyrdom and his in the way that Fury talked to Guy in this episode, like he died fighting for what he believed in. He did things the hard way. He didn't take the shortcuts to try and just take control. He did his best to assimilate and to find a medium that, like, he took the hard road to try and find a place and a home for the Skrulls that were still on Earth and the Skrulls of New Skrullos. And I do hope that by the end of this series we do get that. I mean, it would be super cheesy of just like, here is a Purple Heart commendation being
Back to the
upon
Purple
Talos
Heart.
that's being accepted by Gaia. And like, yeah, that would be super cheesy and on the nose, but also find a way to
I hope they don't go that cheesy.
let them live in their own skin and find a way to assimilate in a way that doesn't feel, heavy-handed or preachy.
See, that's the thing.
Finale. Again, they have a lot to do with one episode left, and I'm worried they're not going to stick the landing. And I say that for every one of these shows.
Yeah, I don't think obviously they're going to go that way because it's a Marvel show, but I'd actually really like it if they didn't. If there wasn't a happy ending that everything is still shit. If they were just honest about the state of the fucking world,
it's like great, but we're also we're gonna serve that footage.
Obviously, the show has gotten more optimistic on humanity as the show has progressed, and that has been one of the points of the show. But it would be an interesting change up, especially for Marvel, to be like, no, this is still an issue. This is never not going to be an issue. It's just one issue now amongst all the other issues we have to deal with, which I think would be a much more nuanced way of handling it. Things are okay, but it's not perfect. And I think we can do that along with Talos getting his regards. At this point, we've said Purple Heart so many times that I don't want him to get a Purple Heart. Because that's another one with the green and purple. It just feels so on the nose.
Well, it'd be one of those things like she's accepting it, but she's accepting it in her true skin because, the world is starting to accept the fact that the Skrulls are among us and there are bad actors and good actors in every culture, and the Skrulls are not immune to that problem that all of humanity faces, and we're all in this fight together.
Because, all of sentient life is fucked. On
that, I could see happy note.
I can really see him going either way. I think next week they got a lot to handle, but I think based off of these first 5 episodes, they'll be able to handle it. I'm interested to see the length of next week's episode. We say it every week I would love this to be the longest episode of the season. I don't think it will be. I think it will be one of the shorter ones again.
As long as they are able to tell the story that they wanted to tell, even if it doesn't wrap everything up, the MCU can do this thing where
they don't need to wrap everything up.
Future projects can make this better. If Gaia is going to be a new recurring character throughout the MCU and is this new Skrull presence or Skrull leadership that ends up being entrenched based on the outcome of this series, they can continue to tell that story, evolve that story, finalize that story, have the closure they need. It doesn't necessarily have to come in this finale. It'll be disappointing if it doesn't, but
even then, I think it could. They have a ways of doing it where it won't be disappointing, where it is, this is a longer story than just this one show. We can lead into the next thing. They do it more with their movies than they do with their TV shows, so we will see. But all of that is for next week, which we will talk about next week when the episode comes out. We've done it. We've made it to the end. There's one more line I want to call out, though, before we wrap up. And it was another line between Priscilla and Gaia, which was when Gaia says something of, in your own skin,
you in your own skin.
Mm-hmm, and that here comment of, of course you meant it to be offensive. The young always think that they always know everything. Definitely just an interesting point within all of this. I'm not sure one that I necessarily agree with, but it was definitely an interesting take in everything within the Skrulls and fighting and how it does relate to both the injustices happening to the Skrulls, but also the injustices happening to people right now in reality.
Yeah.
The show is handling this stuff very, very well.
It's a very interesting, theme throughout the show of, the old guard versus the new blood and the different approaches to trying to get the outcome that both sides of the coin want the same outcome. Priscilla's generation, Talos' generation, they wanted acceptance, they wanted a home, they wanted a place to live. So does Gravik, so does Gaia. They're just frustrated, pissed off, and don't want to put up with the BS that comes with, waiting your turn, which I can, I don't want to say it.
I'm say find a better way to say what you want to say.
No, I was just going to say, as a millennial, which I didn't want to have to. I feel like even just saying that now with Gen X, man. Gen Z, I feel old. Old man, old. Even looking at the millennial generation, there is this civil unrest to the way that we approach a lot of the socioeconomic issues of today. And a lot of that is paralleled in the way I see Gaia and Gravik and that group, like the new Skrullos group, reacting to the world and how it treats them versus, you know, the Taloses, the Priscillas of this series. So it's also that interesting dichotomy of like how the older generation will treat these problems versus the newer generation of, oh, we'll just let things work themselves out. Nah, fuck that. Give me a shotgun. And
yeah, it's that thing of, it's not even just impatience. It's one group seeing we can't keep waiting.
It's Twisted Sister, baby. We're not going to take it. No, we ain't going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore.
I hate that we're ending this on a Twisted Sister lyric, but
yeah,
that's like we're going to beat a dead horse if we don't. So,
old man makes old reference. Story at 11.
If y'all, if you recognize that reference, just stop listening to the show. You're too old.
Peace.
Because Mitch is off the show now. What's funny is I recognize the reference, so I'm gone too. But yeah, speaking of classic rock, our next major episode of the normal show is going to be on Muppets Mayhem, which I'm super excited for. And now Mitch is listening to me again. He didn't get to hear all the wonderful things I just said about him.
I call bullshit, but also thank you.
No, I'm actually talking about classic rock and how our next episode of the big show is going to be Muppets Mayhem.
Woo! Let's rock!
Dude, I've had such a good time. We'll talk about that when we get to that. So go keep an eye out for that when that one drops. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, all future content is subject to change right now. We are not important. Go follow the strike. See how you can support them in their fight for living fucking wages and not letting AI take over the industry. Seriously, go check things out from SAG-AFTRA and from WGA for more information. Next time we do an episode, I will try to have better sources for where you can keep up with strike news. We are not going to be doing that. A lot of the news cycle around the strike has been people just trying to get on things first and not necessarily trying to get things accurate. We're not going to try to do either. Yeah. We're going to just point y'all to the accurate sources.
We are not experts on, unionization, labor disputes in America. There are people far more educated and far more informed than we are. So do your best to seek out those sources, and we can share them together and learn together. But we ain't talking on this because we ain't union lawyers. We're, two dudes that talk about stuff on the internet because it's fun.
Exactly. So yeah, go support them. We will see y'all in the next episode of whatever we do. But until then,
well, it'll be the finale of this, and maybe Muppets Mayhem. I don't know the order.
Yeah, I just don't remember what the order of things is anymore. Time is a flat circle. Anyways, we will see y'all in the next.
I think Muppets Mayhem will come out first, because
in that case, keep an eye out for that.
That'll be Tuesday, I think, and this will be Wednesday. But
yeah, I don't know, man. Look, we do the thing, we have the thing, we have some fun. Anyways, yeah, keep an eye out for things. And until next time, have a magical day.
Excelsior.